All right. Hello and welcome back. Thank you guys for joining me, whether live or watching this in the replay. So today's topic, I want to make sure that everyone understands that the title of this video, I'm in no way making light of the current situation. It is, of course, terrible, and I don't feel like there are, true blessings within this, but maybe components or things that we could learn or opportunities that we could recognize that could long term be blessings in disguise. At some point, this pandemic will be over. And I'm recording this video to try and compel people to recognize that there are a lot of pandemic style things or tragedy type of things that could happen to you or your practice way after this, that if you don't take the time now, ahead of time, while you have this time, while you're focused on trying to solidify your business and figure out what to do, taking a step back and saying, well, when this is over, what about the other 50 plus things that could happen to me or my practice that would be a killing blow to the practice and to myself and the people that it supports, right? And so, I think that right now everyone's scrambling, but I want you to start to look at, well, while I'm trying to solidify things, how can I answer these questions I'm about to give and, put in place systems, staffing, insurance, whatever the case may be, to help to completely avoid those potential things from happening and, killing our practice, or at least mitigate the damage as much as possible. So just going through, and you can get creative with these questions. And this is something that we're in my mastermind group, we're actually going to start to do like a workshop series during these coming months of answering all these questions and having the homework of, okay, we're going to all go check our insurance policy on this. Does it include this? What happens if this happens? Do we have partners? Do we have it in the contract or in our agreements? What happens if one of us dies or something changes or staff goes away or whatever the case may be? So some of the questions to ask would be, what if something happens to, if you have a physical practice location? What if you're flooded and or it burns down and you can't see patients for a certain period of time? Does your insurance just cover the belongings inside, or does it cover the lost revenue? Does it cover the ability to pay your staff in that time frame? Making sure that your insurance covers you for those natural tragedies. Maybe you're on the East Coast and it's a hurricane. Maybe you're somewhere else and it's a tornado. But making sure that you have contingencies in place for if something happens to your practice, your physical location, that would be a big one. What if you have key staff that leave or die, or you have to fire them for some reason? Do you have all of their systems and processes very well documented, so that if you had to replace somebody quickly, they could come in and not have to go through like 5 hours of screen recording videos, but also associated with those videos, you've got your step-by-step task lists, right? You've got your screenshots, you got your quick access documentation, so that they're immediately able to pick up and not lose any, you're not losing progress or losing, revenue or losing patients because someone wasn't able to come and fill that spot quickly enough. What about you yourself? What if you could no longer see patients? Or what if you could no longer, say you could no longer see patients, but you could manage? What if you couldn't do either? What if you got sick? What if you died? What if you had, someone in your family that got sick or ended up in the hospital and you needed to tend to them, and you had really only 1 hour a day that you could focus on work? That was my situation about 1.5 years ago. My son was in the hospital for 3 months. Most days I was there, most days and nights, and I'd hop in the bathroom and get in 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, but probably not more than about an hour or two a day that I could actually work. And because of that, I was forced to put in the systems, the automation, the staffing, the things, to keep things afloat. And interestingly enough, at the end of that time, I finally got the books back from my staff from my bookkeepers. And because I had put those things in place ahead of time, because I thought about contingencies, not that I thought that exactly was going to happen, but that I set up the systems and made it such that everything working and the revenue coming in was not reliant just on me, or not heavily reliant on me. We had our biggest year for the clinic. It was the biggest revenue and profit year for Carter Physiotherapy, the year that my kids were born, diagnosed with type 1 spinal muscular atrophy. And then the last 3 months of the year, I was in the hospital staying with my son, who was hospitalized. And I mean, biggest year over 10 years, that was kind of huge to have that happen. Only seeing patients on Wednesdays myself, and then I had staff seeing patients the rest of the time. So those are the kinds of things where if you didn't set that stuff up in place, or if I hadn't set that up in place, or had that in place, sorry, beforehand, the practice probably would have died, right? If I didn't have the staff and systems and the automated marketing, components and the, follow up with patients and all those things that were happening without me having to push the buttons and make the phone calls and, treat the patients. If you don't have those things in place, you are highly vulnerable, right? It's not just going to go away when coronavirus goes away. So take this time now to think about, what if I was able to do nothing more? Do I have family or loved ones depending on, the profits from this business supporting them? If I go away, does the business go away? Okay, do something about it. Now is the time. You got to ask those questions and then reverse engineer, and figure out what, steps do I need to take and put in place to where if I go away, if the clinic goes away, if something else happens, you can create all kinds of scenarios. Maybe a really hardcore competitor comes in and takes half of your business. Maybe your primary, if you have only one or two main referral sources and they decide to start their own practice, that's a common story. That's put a lot of people out of business or was a crippling blow. And then they had to sell their practice at pennies on the dollar. It's happened left and right. So, do you have diversified referral sources? Do your revenue streams, is it all just PT treatment, or do you have other sources of revenue? Where if you can't make as much on PT, or say you're shifting right now to telehealth and you're not making nearly as much, you don't have as many patients, maybe you're discounting the services further, right? What other revenue streams could have been there that could have helped, right? And so ask yourself these questions. Don't just look at this video and say, yeah, that's a nice idea. I mean, carve out some time on your schedule if you don't already have a little extra time, and make this a point in these coming months. Say, this is my time to tragedy-proof my business. I'm going to come up with good answers to all of these, unfortunately, worst-case scenario questions, and I'm going to figure out how to have the insurance, have the systems, have the staff in place to mitigate the damage if any of this stuff happens. So hopefully not too morbid of a message, but this is important. And I hope that this situation right now with this pandemic has opened our eyes to the fact that we probably have a lot more vulnerabilities in our practice than we ever thought of before. And it's time to address those now, so that when this goes away, we're not hit with another really bad thing, because on an individual basis, it's much more likely that something like those things, those other tragedies I just listed, are going to happen before another pandemic does. So please utilize this information, go through these strategies and build this out. If you want to join me as I do it with my mastermind in the coming months, we're going to be going through all these questions and building out, going to have the homework. We're going to make sure that everyone puts these things in place. You can go to drjarodcarter.com/mastermind, check out all that you get and the one-on-one guidance that you'll get from me as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next Tuesday.